You're listening to the Midlife with Courage podcast. This is where women in midlife come for inspiration, motivation, and sometimes a little education to help them flourish after 40. Let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Midlife with Courage. I am Kim Benoit, your host, and I'm so happy to have you here. I'm also very happy to have my guest here with me today. Her name is Emily Black. Welcome to the podcast, Emily.
Hi, Kim. How are you?
I'm good. So today we're going to talk about a couple different things, but why don't you first just introduce yourself? Tell us where in the world you are and what you do.
I'm Emily Black. I live in Orlando, Florida, and started and owned a business that makes gummies, any sort of supplements, but at this point it's just gummies for menopause. And I got into that area beginning in around 2021 when I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And also not sure, I was about 45 at the time, also not sure if I was dealing with symptoms of menopause too.
Oh.
And so I was looking for solutions to feel better, not realizing that those two things were overlapping, and eventually ended up getting a certification in menopause coaching and went on to start this business.
Wonderful. So much there to talk about. But first, why don't you tell us about a time in your life when you felt courageous or where you showed courage?
Oh, people will probably think this is maybe not, maybe it's not silly. I actually left at this point, 18-year marriage at 40 years old. I'd been unhappy for many years. I was living overseas with my ex-husband and finally just couldn't do it anymore and left. That was 8 years ago. And I cried every single day for a year
Oh, no.
because he was not a bad guy. He was a good person and he was a good friend, but we were not made for each other. And to this day, I don't regret it, but I'm still sad about it. So doing something that makes you sad and pressing on and knowing it's the right thing felt really courageous to me.
Oh, definitely. And I don't think that's silly at all. Yeah, I've had actually quite a few women lately have done something similar where
Hmm.
they knew the relationship wasn't serving them and there was no way to fix it. So
Hmm.
that's what happened. And yeah,
Yeah.
it does take courage to know that and to move forward. So tell us a little bit more about your story about finding out you had that autoimmune disease and deciding that, you were going to help women in menopause. Tell us wherever you want to start.
Well, in 2021, the COVID vaccine had just come out. Had been in lockdown for a year, and I was so excited to get the vaccine and get back to normal and all of that. I got my first shot in the spring of 2021, second shot, I think April or so.
Mhm.
And within a week, I would wake up and they would be glued, my lids would be glued shut. I would have to
Oh,
pry them open with my fingertips. And they were red and oozing, and I was having all sorts of sort of genitourinary problems, felt like I had a UTI all the time. And luckily, with the eye thing, a friend of mine was in town, a doctor friend was in town when it was flaring up one time. And
mhm.
she said, "That looks autoimmune to me." And I went to the doctor, the rheumatologist, and got diagnosed pretty quickly within a few months. And I say that because autoimmune things are really hard to diagnose.
Sure.
And so people are often, 3 years or so. That's the average looking for a solution.
Hmm.
And the reason I threw out the COVID vaccine, and I want to make this clear, I am not anti-vax. I am so thrilled that we have vaccinations and that COVID vaccine, but I had such a strong reaction to it. I feared that if I had just gotten COVID, I might have died. So that's why, when I say the COVID part, it's because I think that I had this underlying condition and that amped up immunity
Hmm.
from the vaccine is what really kicked it into gear. So I'm not anti-vax. Don't want anyone to think that.
Yeah.
So I got this diagnosis, which is called Sjogren syndrome, and it is where your body attacks the moisture producing cells in your body. So tear ducts, saliva glands, all sorts of downstairs symptoms that need moisture all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctors couldn't really help me, pull apart what was autoimmune and what was menopause, because I was 45 years old at the time. I did go to my regular gynecologist, told him I was having a lot of pain with sex, and he said, well, just have a glass of wine beforehand. And I'm like, no, don't tell people to drink, first off.
Oh my.
Secondly, have you ever had a root canal? Because this feels like a root canal. And a glass of wine does not make a root canal enjoyable.
No.
Not. So because of that experience, feeling like I was brushed off, not paid attention to, that my pain wasn't important because I was 45 and I was at the gynecologist. I wasn't looking to get pregnant. I wasn't, having a baby. I just felt like they completely brushed me off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it was up to me to sort of pull apart what was going to work. And I ended up going to a pelvic floor physical therapist, on and on, until finally I ended up at the medical marijuana doctor. Never ever thinking that I would be a cannabis person in my life. I'd been one of those high school students against drunk driving, DARE people. If you remember, we, Gen Xer age type. And I was the biggest cheerleader for that. I had never done anything like that, but I was in so much pain that I had to find something. So I continued on seeing the rheumatologist, trying to get all of those symptoms in line. And once I got the proper medication, didn't need the medical marijuana as much. Mm-hmm. The card is expensive. And I wasn't doing it for any sort of enjoyment. It was just to get rid of the pain. And that had, subsided a bit. And what I realized was, first off, you can buy gummies and other, types of things online completely legally because of the 2018 Farm Bill, which makes hemp THC legal throughout the US. Mm-hmm. And that was really all I needed, this very low dose to help me with the pain and the anxiety of this autoimmune disorder. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, this is miraculous for me, whether it's autoimmune or whether it's menopause. This is helping my symptoms. And I wish so many people in my age range, in the nearing 50 age range, that are dealing with menopause symptoms, realize how much this could help them.
Yeah, for sure. So much to go back to there.
Sorry.
No, that's good. That's good. So first of all, the thing that you talked about with your symptoms, like the symptoms you were having sound like menopause symptoms too. So, if someone's out there having, the dryness and the eyes and, get everything checked out. Don't just assume, well, it's menopause. And the other thing that you said, your doctor kind of blew you off, that happens so often.
Absolutely.
And because we're kind of told, well, there's nothing you can do about it, just deal with it. Like, no, there are lots of things you can do about it.
Absolutely.
So I love that you kept searching and you kept looking for answers, and it sounds like you found answers for yourself. So that's what I would encourage listeners. If there's something going on, ask questions. Just deal with it.
Absolutely. And really, like I said about not being pregnant, not trying to get pregnant, it just comes down to, quality of life. And I think a lot of gynecologists don't feel like that's their responsibility.
Right. Yeah. They have their purpose and you have yours, and they're not the same.
And by the way, the one that told me to have a glass of wine was a man.
Of course.
I'm not saying all male gynecologists are terrible. I've had some great ones, but he did not listen.
Yeah. Don't you think, I mean, I a retired OB nurse here and I worked with a lot of
Who
male
were you? Oh,
doctors.
that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. But I've never purposely gone to a male gynecologist because
Mhm.
they don't know. They
Yeah.
never experience what a woman experiences ever. Like,
That's funny. I didn't realize that's what you had done. I feel like
yeah.
I'm with an authority now. You know
Well,
about this than I do.
wouldn't say that, but yeah, it gives me a different perspective on things. So,
Uh-huh.
yeah, for sure. But yeah, the other thing you talked about is it's cannabis, like it's THC, and I've been, I mean, I've too, like, well, I've resisted it, and
Hmm.
I can't do that, but I've got a little bottle of hemp something on my counter that I use for sleep now because it does help, it does work. But maybe tell us a little bit more about, like, there's CBD and there's THC. Can you
Hmm.
give us a little education on that, maybe?
Sure. THC is the part of marijuana, the chemical in marijuana, she said clearly, that gives you the high.
Mhm.
CBD is another chemical within the hemp plant that doesn't get you high, but it gives you muscle relaxation
Mhm.
and sort of calmness of mind. And the two of them together create sort of the balance of chill out versus sleep versus high.
Mhm.
It one or the other would make you too high or too sleepy, but together you can sort of mitigate, measure out what you want to feel like. And I never got good at vaping or anything like that when it came to the THC. That just wasn't my method that I felt good about. I want to
Mhm.
be able to measure. I want to know exactly how many milligrams I'm getting. I want to know the exact combination of THC to CBD. And all I really want at this stage is relaxation and pain relief and sleep. I'm not looking to get silly. I never was.
Yeah.
And that's really the main message I want to give women in our 40s now. If you've never tried it, if you've always been scared of it, if just say no, put the fear of God in you, then there is something there for you, and you can do it safely and legally
Mhm.
and possibly get a lot of relief from it. I'm not saying it's for everyone, but it's
Right.
it's for some people for sure.
Right. I think sometimes well, I personally have gotten to the point with the perimenopause symptoms, like I will do anything to
Yes.
to alleviate the things that are happening. So,
Yes.
not that it should take that, but I like that we're talking about it so that we can get it more out for
Yes.
women to not have to go to that
Absolutely.
extreme. But yeah.
Well, and you mentioned for sleep too. One of the most common comments, I've got a Facebook group with about 11,000 people in it. And
Uh,
before I made the first product, I went in and asked them, what do you need? What are your biggest problems?
mhm.
What can I do to help you? And they said sleep and
Mhm.
anxiety. I mean, I hear people tell me about their 3 a.m. wake up call daily and this anxiety that just came from nowhere.
Yeah.
They were fine most of their lives, and then suddenly they're worried about every single little thing. And so
Mhm.
those were the two things I tried to tackle. Number three was hot flash,
Mhm.
and cannabis anecdotally can help a little bit with hot flash, but it's certainly, not prescribed for that or anything.
Sure.
Those two things, cannabis, anxiety, and sleep, can do so much for. And that's why I want to get the word out.
Yeah, for sure. And I know the key to kind of alleviating your symptoms is getting that cortisol level down in your body. So reducing the
Absolutely.
stress.
Mm-hmm.
And this is probably what this does, I'm thinking. I mean,
Yeah.
I know that's what it
Well,
does for me.
and you being a nurse, I'm sure, I have no doubt you know more about the body mechanism.
Hmm.
I do know plenty about menopause, but
Yep.
I'm not a doctor, so don't take this
Yes.
as
Yep. Disclaimer,
as
this is not
medical
medical
advice.
advice, people.
Disclaimer. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So Oh, I just totally lost my brain. See, that brain fog
I
kicks in.
know.
It's so bad.
Menopause brain.
Yeah, well, that's what I kind of want to talk about. Like when you talk about anxiety, like the I never felt this anxious about things before. And
Yeah.
it's scary, you know?
Well, and there are so many different reasons. The hormone changes and all those things certainly ramp it up.
Mhm.
But in our late 40s at this point, a lot of people have teenage children, college age children, becoming empty nesters. Our
Mhm.
parents are aging. My parents are in their mid 70s now. I worry about them. A
Yep.
lot of us are at a high level in our careers. There is so much just in the life of someone at this age, and then you add these hormone changes that are equivalent to puberty. All
Yeah.
of the stuff you went through at 12, 13, 14, you're going through now in reverse, but you got all of this, crushing weight on you. It's
Yeah.
Do not feel bad about this relentless anxiety, because it is for real. It's legit.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my previous guests had said menopause or perimenopause is like puberty on steroids.
It is.
It's
It's
so much
terrible.
more. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But now you've got a life to deal with.
Yes, exactly. And I same things as you just said too. But
Mhm.
yeah, so how did you go about it must have been kind of a difficult process to formulate this cannabis product and getting it out. And do you have a business background? Because you have to
I
know about
don't
some kind of
actually.
business, right?
No, my degree is graphic design, and
Ah,
I love doing design and product creation and that sort of thing.
oh, cool.
So, yeah. And so what I did was, once I figured out, I think I want to do some sort of gummy with cannabis, THC and CBD. I started looking for a manufacturing partner that would make what I was looking for. Got
Hmm.
samples from, a dozen different cannabis suppliers, and they were able to direct me in all the different ways. The business part of it was the licenses. I live in Florida. So you have to have in Florida, cannabis is considered a food product. So
Hmm.
you have to go through, the food licensing board, things like that were,
Sure.
sort of hurdles. But this amazing partner that does the manufacturing for me was able to sort of lead me through all of these things. And then after 6 months or so, I realized that there are people that, I mean, of course, this makes sense. There are people that either choose not to try cannabis
Hmm.
or can't because of some other reason. It conflicts with another medication, or they're drug tested, or they're just sober and they just choose not to.
Hmm.
And so I then went back and created a second product that is THC free.
Hmm.
And so it's got melatonin, ashwagandha, and L-theanine, which are not controlled substances at all. And that one is actually available on Amazon as well. Amazon won't let you sell anything with THC in it. So we've got two products now. One has THC and CBD. The second one does not, for anyone who's not interested. But I will say myself, I love just a little smidge, a little bit of THC in there really does help.
Yeah. How does it affect you? And it'll affect people differently, but I think people get worried like, oh, I'm going to be so high and do
Yes,
weird things. Like
absolutely.
you said, get silly.
Yes. Well, mine has 5 milligrams of THC. My one gummy does.
Mhm.
And, I've had several people of about my, height and weight and size and all of that tell me they can only take a half because it's too much for them. They get really sleepy. I've
Mhm.
had other people tell me they can take two full ones and it's fine.
Mhm.
So it's really something you need to experiment with. And what I tell people is start off with a half.
Sure.
Don't add the second half in an hour. Don't do that, because sometimes it takes longer than an hour. Try half tonight. If that doesn't do the job, try full tomorrow.
Mhm.
Step your way up. I, at 145-ish pounds, take a full 5 milligrams, and it's absolutely perfect for me.
Okay. For you. Yeah.
But I
That's
don't get silly. And I've heard people say about other products that they get paranoid. I don't get paranoid. I don't get silly, but everybody reacts differently.
Sure. Sure. Definitely. Definitely worth trying it if you're struggling with those different things that we all are going through. So, yeah. So, do you want to share we haven't even said the name of your product. So, do you want to
Oh, okay.
share the name, and we can share where the name of it?
Sure.
And, yeah.
Well, it is still STILL menopause relief,
Mhm.
and it's available at stillforher.shop, and that's FORHER.shop. And I would love to give your listeners a 20% off coupon code if they're
Oh,
interested.
awesome.
We'll, I'm sure, put this in the notes.
Yes, for sure.
The code would be, let's see, courage. You want to do courage for
Sure.
your code?
Yeah.
And that'll be 20% off your first order. And you can get both the with THC and without THC at stillforher.shop.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, we would definitely put that in the show notes. Thank you. That's awesome.
Mm.
We're taking a big trip. I
Oh,
think by
yeah.
the time this comes out, we might even be on that trip, but we're flying overseas and I've never been on a plane for more than like 4 hours or
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
5 hours. Anyway, so I'm thinking I might need something. My husband might
Yeah.
need something.
Where are you going?
We're going into Europe we're flying into Switzerland.
Okay. Well, check the laws there.
Yes, that was my next
I
question.
I went to Iceland over the summer
Hmm.
and with people that are very comfortable with cannabis.
Hmm.
And luckily we did the research and found out that they have a zero tolerance policy in Iceland. So none
Ah,
of us could take our sleep gummies on that trip. But
okay.
it's fully legal within the US, so you can fly with it. So just check your locations you're going to.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Yeah, that's probably smart to do that before we head out.
Yeah, you don't want to be in a Swiss prison somewhere.
No, that would not be good. Well, is there anything else that you want to share with us about your product or about menopause or how you can help us?
The main thing I want to say about the anxiety and all the other symptoms, the depression, the hair loss, the weight gain, all of those things, I think women feel like they're failing when they sort of give in to those things, that they have done something wrong. If they would just lose that 10 or 15 pounds, that all of these symptoms would go away. If they're not eating right, that they're not exercising. The fact is, super fit, vegan, meditators still have symptoms.
Right.
It's really just the luck of the draw. And don't beat yourself up. So that's one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two is that the time in a woman's life when she is most likely to attempt suicide is 45 to 55 years old.
Wow.
And I fully believe that a lot of that has to do with hormone changes.
Mm.
And so if anyone tries to tell you you're being dramatic, you're being silly, don't worry about it, this is natural, just, white knuckle through,
Mm-hmm.
tell them that's ridiculous and that this is no different than the thing I compare it to is type 1 diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
If suddenly your body quit producing insulin, you would not just say, oh, well, I just need to exercise more. I just need to, buck up and decide to feel better. That's not how it works. Your body has stopped producing a hormone that is necessary. And
Right.
it will happen to everyone. You did nothing wrong, but take it seriously because it is a big deal and don't let anyone tell you that it's not.
I love that. That's such good advice and it's so important. And that makes to me that was, I mean, I know that what you just said, but still to hear you say that was like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense.
I'm
Because
so glad.
yeah,
That is
yeah,
my message. Just take yourself seriously and don't let anyone tell you that you're doing something wrong because you're not.
right. Love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Emily, for talking and sharing your message. I think it's so important that we talk about menopause and perimenopause and all the wonderful things that happen and but mostly what we can do about it. And it sounds
Absolutely. Thank
like
you so
you,
much for having me.
yeah, thanks for coming on and we will talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for listening to the Midlife with Courage podcast. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed bringing it to you. If you did like what you heard, please leave me a review, or even better, share a link with a friend. Until next time, take care of your beautiful self.